Recording in progress.
Round. How's everybody doing today?
Great.
Hey, can you guys at home see my screen?
Yeah, looks good, Kato.
All right, cool, thanks. Let's. Switch that screen. All right. So how many people remember last week how much I said I expected CPI to go up, not down? Anybody remember? It was coming out that day, later that day, but we didn't know what did it tell you.
And it was going up and it was coming out later that day.
Do you remember how much I said though? It's at 0.2%, so 0.2. Everybody know what it came out at? Nope, I was wrong.
It actually went down.
No. 0.3. So I want to talk about the Dr. Doom cycle. And I want to talk about why people don't like economists and what this means for you guys moving forward. Because the reason we changed the way we taught this class this year was so many people last year like, Kato, I'm just depressed when I walk out. Oh my gosh, all you ever tell us is the worst thing. Well, what's an economist's job? Anybody know? In what way? You're right, but in what way?
In a way that prepares people to be able to navigate it securely for their benefit.
So Joe's answer for those of you who are at home who might not have heard him was, an economist's job is to educate people, to let them know how to navigate, and I'm going to throw in the words, the financial realm, to their benefit and maybe not to their detriment. Would that be clear? That's pretty much exactly it. Our job when we study economics is to look at the worst case scenario and then look for what the alternative paths are. By the way, what do you think the Fed's been doing this whole time, trying to crash the real estate market? And by the way, yes, they have been trying to crash the real estate market. For one of the things that was hard for me to speed to. You on your phone? Hold on. Somebody needs mute. One of the things that we need for our economy to slow down, because real estate's been doing so well. The average over the last 112 years roughly has been a 4% appreciation rate. Anybody know what Denver has averaged over the last 10 years?
12%?
Little higher, 12.13. Is that sustainable?
Maybe.
Anybody? Well, maybe. What would make it sustainable? Thank you. Exactly. If earnings go up at the same rate, which they haven't, then that might be sustainable. But it hasn't happened. So here's the thing. Inflation is nothing more than having an exceptionally strong economy that is going so well that a lot of people are getting left behind. That's like a very easy definition. Okay, inflation in and of itself isn't a bad thing, but inflation, because it devalues the dollar, is a tax on your savings account. All right. So we're going to go in a big circle, and I promise we'll come back. What defines, in the simplest terms of how money is used, the lower class? What do they do with the money they earn? They spend it. The middle class spends their money. What does the middle class do? Saves their money. What does the upper class do? Invest. Okay, we said that. I'm glad you guys remember. We said that a couple times. Lower class spends all their extra money. Middle class saves it. Upper class invests it. Well, if inflation is a tax on your savings, who is it hurting? And by the way, there's two classes it's hurting the most. Middle, because they save. Who else? Lower, because they didn't got any savings. So the cost of goods are going up, and they don't know how to save, so they have no cushion. So here's the thing. When you hear about the legislators going, we're going to make $20 the minimum wage, and we're going to make $50 minimum wage, do you know who they're screwing? They're screwing the people in the lower class and the lower half of the middle class. Because the businesses, all they do is they have to raise the cost of their product in order to be able to afford this. But the people don't have good money spending habits, good money saving habits, good money investing habits. And so they're the ones who get hit the hardest. Here's why I say this. What percentage of the people in our county are not in the top 5%? Yeah, it's simple math problem, right? 95% of the people are either in middle class or lower class, because the upper class is considered the top 5%. So, where do most people keep their savings? In a bank account, well, maybe a little in the mattress. And there's a cultural dynamic that goes on there with some groups, but mostly it's in banks, in money market accounts, IRAs, things like that. But it's all tied to our banking system, yes? Now, y'all heard me do my stump speeches from up here for, you've been coming almost 2 years now. Do I think our banking system is in good shape? Okay. I'm going to do something today that I don't typically do in Money Market Mondays, and that is I'm going to play you a video, and I'm going to call it the I Told You So video, because all these things I've been telling you guys for months, it's weird. I'm now watching videos where they're like, maybe the Fed will have to raise rates before they drop them again, and things like that. And I'm laughing, going, no, and this guy runs Hershey Financial, and actually, I'm going to say a lot of what he says I agree with. There's always some I don't agree with. By the way, if you ever see someone that you agree with everything they say, you're looking in a mirror, look somewhere else. Okay. But I want to go through a couple things with you so that you understand the point from which we're coming from. And then what we're going to do is we're going to watch the video videos, I think about 13 minutes long, and then we're just going to talk about what do you do in your business to take this to the next level for your business. Is that fair? So one of the things I got in trouble for when I taught the red line class here is I said, I'm standing for every single person in this firm doing at least 2 deals a month. And what I meant by that was we would not have let you sign up with us if we didn't think you had the ability to do 2 a month. Okay, that's really what that means. Whether you choose to do less, more, that's up to you. I'm not getting into that. But according to NAR, in 2024, they expect the average full-time realtor to do 4 deals maximum this year. So here's what I want you to get. That's a choice. And that's the piece that you really have to get. Because I've got 2 going right now, and I've got 11 clients sitting on my board that I'm working. I've got 4 listings coming up. Hey, but I'm only supposed to do 4 deals total. So am I supposed to give these away? And here's what I want you to get. If you're educated, if you can educate your clients, if you can understand just the basics of this, then you can take it where it doesn't matter what anyone else says. Don't let them define your world, is what I'm doing. Okay? So let's talk about CPI for a few minutes. So I just went back to 2000, right before. So when I got into real estate, I got in technically, well, I took my testing in 99. I technically got in January of 2000. But we had the dot-com bubble. Oh my God, we're all going to die. The clocks are going to like stop. Nuclear Armageddon. Trucks won't be able to run. Cereal's going to taste stale. I don't know. I mean, it was just ridiculous. But I want you to see some. So these gray lines, whenever I show you these spread charts, the gray lines are where we had a recession. Where I implemented the red line is a static part. And what I want you to understand about this is pretty much anytime it reaches this line, we go into a recession. Now, you will see a couple places where we didn't. Nothing is foolproof. But it sort of gives you an indication of what to expect in the economy. But what I also want you to see is the ones that even failed, what happened right after? We had a drop, right?
What do you think prevented us from going into the recession?
Stronger economy overall. Oh, we just lost Houston. We have a problem. I'm just trying to see who's not muted there. Right. Stronger economy overall, and like, let's use the one that was in the 2012s. A lot of this was us fixing what happened in the last recession. Okay, and jobs were coming back and things like that. So what I don't have here is where income is. So that will take care of a little bit of this, not all of it. But that's why I use the conference board leading indicator, because it uses 10 of these together and they pretty much cancel each other out, which is how we look and go, got it. We know we're going into a recession. But here's what I want you to look at. Right, we went in one here, not here, not here, not here. But, you know, here's the tallest peak we have. Hey, how are we looking, guys?
Tall.
Pretty tall.
It's one.
So the indication is that we will probably have a problem there. I'm not saying it's a for sure, I'm just saying an indication. Now, in October is when everybody started saying, oh, the Fed's going to start dropping rates next year. Oh, good. Like, you know, we have inflation under control. Somebody look at this chart and tell me where October is at, and then tell me what the trend is after that. Are we trending toward 2%?
We're trending back up.
We're trending back up. Anybody know why? There's one simple reason. There's a bunch of reasons, but there's one simple one.
The economy is doing better than expected.
Why?
People are spending more money.
Why?
Election year.
Election year, maybe, maybe not. And I get why you say that, Christy, but some people think the country is in a horrible state. Some people think it's in a great state. But if the news pundits all came out like, it's a soft landing, you know what? Everybody go back. I'm sure we're going to drop rates this year. Does everybody feel more or less safe? So when they feel more safe, do they feel like spending money or less money? So the idiots who are broadcasting something that's not going to happen are the ones that are causing the economy to go back up. Now, let's go into the election year cycle. Do the people in the election year cycle want inflation to be 6, 7, 8% somewhere around October, November? Why? They want to get reelected. Okay, and that won't go well. But inflation's going up. So they have a choice now. They can either crash the economy a little earlier so that it looks better when the election out, oh my gosh, look what happened. Because this was my favorite and I couldn't find the clip again. And I'm not picking it just to say it. Biden going, yeah, and this is like a couple months ago, gas has come down, 63 cents in the last month. And all I could think is, hey, you jackwagon, because it went up $2.50. This is not an accomplishment. Okay? And I don't care which side it's on. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, but this is what politicians do. But if this keeps trending at this rate, we'll be at 6.1% on election day. That's going to be a problem. Federal funds effective rate. This is the rate at which banks borrow money from the Fed each other for short term so that they can get through some money issues because of the type of fractional banking that. But here's what I want you to see. Every time we hit a peak and dropped, what happened? Recession. Now we're showing we're kind of at one of these flat peaks, but we haven't crossed to where we started to drop yet. Anybody know the significance of March 11th of this year? Nope. Good thought though. No, I should have. Sorry, guys, give me a second here. I forgot to pull this up real quick.
World Plumbing Day.
World. Oh, thank you, David. I needed that. Well, David, actually, you have no idea how accurate that is to some extent. Yeah. It's no what?
National No Smoking Day.
No smoking day. Okay.
National Wash Your Nose Day.
I like the plumbing day the best. Yes, and that was what I was trying to get to, and for some reason my link isn't working. So last year we created a fix for the banks when Silicon Valley Bank went under, and we started showing other banks going under. Say the Fed's going to come in and understand that the Fed is, think of it as NAR for banks. Okay, we're going to come in and we're going to make it even cheaper for other banks and all this, and it was set to sunset on March 11th. And the question became, would the Fed sunset it or not, because it's allowing a lot of banks to stay afloat. And the Fed went, yeah, we're not going to do that anymore. So here's what we expect to happen. And my crystal ball is broken, but I'm going to tell you 90+% chance. The rates that the banks are paying on these short-term loans, because this will be gone, goes up. So a bunch of these little regional banks that are hanging on by their fingernails, that are dealing with the commercial real estate issue, are going to go like this and fall. So we're going to see a bunch of bank failures show up. Now, let's talk about this as consumers. If you have more than $250,000 in the bank, come see me afterwards. I'll explain to you how to make sure that that is insured by the FDIC. If you have less than that, you have nothing to worry about. The FDIC isn't going anywhere. This is not doom and gloom. The world's going to end. But the FDIC made everyone at Silicon Valley Bank whole because that bank was connected to a whole bunch of businesses that would have destroyed labor, mostly in California and New York. They couldn't let that happen. They're not going to keep doing that for bank after bank after bank because the FDIC only has so much money. But when one bank starts to fail and another bank and a third bank, what starts after that? For those of you who are a little older, I don't expect younger people. Banks get a what on their money? They get a run on their money. And the problem is, only about 10% of your money is in the bank. Now, if I go in and take all my money out today, that's fine. But that means the next 9 people behind me don't have any money that can go out. Does this make sense? And the reason I say that is every river has rapids. You can't change that. How you respond to it is what's different. And here's what I'm going to tell you. They will not renew this on March 11th. They've already said this. We will have more bank failures. It will be in the news. Everybody will go, oh my gosh. What the incumbents right now are hoping is that this is a quick, painful, the bottom falls out, and then a couple months later they go, oh no, it's got better. See, it's got better. Vote me in. Because they don't want the 6.1% to show up on election day, no matter which side they're on. No matter if they voted against it, people will vote them out because they were part of this situation that caused the problem. And I'm telling you right now, the Fed is going to look at it, and it's not supposed to happen this way. I get it. And some of you are going to tell me I'm wrong. I'm cool with that. The Fed, because it is so tied with the parties, is going to look at the states that are swing votes, and they're going to save some of those banks in those states, and they won't do it in other states. Here's the thing, they aren't going to save any bank in Colorado. You know why? Because it didn't even matter if Trump was on our primary. He's not going to win in this state with the way it's set up. The way we redistrict, there's no chance for him to take it. So it doesn't matter, they'll let him drop here. But in Mississippi, that's a whole nother story. Vermont, whole nother story. Okay, so they've got to look at things like that. And what I'm saying is, when you understand what's going on, when you get it and you have a GPS and you're doing the 10 plus conversations a day, there is no way to fail in this upcoming March. This is why I keep telling you guys this will be one of the best years in real estate. I didn't say it will be one of the best years in the economy, but it will definitely be one of the best years in real estate for brokers who work hard. So let me play that video. If I can get back. Oh, there we go. So here's what I want you to listen to on this too, before I get into it. I want you to listen to what he says and just find the logical correlations. Listen to things we've talked about for the last 6-8 months. And not everything he says is congruent with me, and that's fine. Everybody looks at things a little differently. But then I want to talk about how you guys are going to take this into your business. Fair?
Shaping up to be the year in which many, many more banks begin to fail. This will result in consolidation of the banking system among just a few very large banks, resulting in ever more concentration of power and more central control over the banking and the financial system. Last choice for you. Now, this has happened many, many times before in the past. There are patterns. We can see these patterns, which is how we can know they're happening again, despite what they try and tell you every time. This time is not different. While the overall pattern is the same, the catalyst that triggers it is usually different. Like last time it was mortgage-backed securities, this time it's the commercial real estate collapse. So to understand what is going on right now and how it will play out, let's take a trip back through time and see how this pattern unfolds throughout history. The very first banks were simply gold storage companies. So somebody would have some gold coins. They didn't want to carry them around with them for fear of getting robbed, or they wanted a safe place to store them. So they gave them to a goldsmith, usually, that was worth the original banks, and just said, hey, we'll pay you, keep this safe for me, and at some point, I'll come back and get my gold. The person would be issued a little receipt that said, hey, you can come back at any time and get your 1 ounce or 5 ounces or 10 ounces of gold. When the person wanted to make a purchase, they would go get their gold, make the purchase, and eventually these things grew in popularity, and more people started storing their money there. After a while, this meant that people were no longer going to retrieve their gold to make the purchase. They were just using their little slips of paper, their receipts, that gave them a claim on that gold to make the purchase. If I can go use this newspaper to get an ounce of gold, I can just give you the piece of paper as payment, and then if you want to go get the gold, you can do that. This system worked out great for a long time, but eventually the banks realized they didn't even have to charge people to store their gold because they had another way to make money. They would simply take the gold that people had entrusted to them and loan it out. Even this arrangement worked out great for a while, but you start to notice a pattern of banks taking on too much leverage, making too many loans or too risky of loans. And then the depositors would get wind of this, realize, hey, the bank might have trouble getting my gold back. So everybody would go line up to get their gold. There would be a bank run and the bank would collapse. So this is the pattern that we see all throughout history. Deposits, loans, over leverage, bank run, collapse. A fantastic book detailing this for the last 800 years is called This Time is Different by Carmen Reinhart and Kenneth Rogoff. I highly suggest this book. Now, about 300 years ago, in order to try and solve this problem, we had the invention of the central bank. This would be a bank for banks, so that if one bank was too risky, made too many loans, and started to see a bank run, there would be a bank that could draw from all the other banks in the system to bail that individual bank out. The only problem this solved was the individual bank risk, but it actually scaled up the risk of the entire system, and you started to have systemic instability as a result of central banks. This is why, again, in 1913, when the Federal Reserve was established in the United States, our central bank, you had the first Great Depression start just 7 years later as a result of the same pattern. Banks took the deposits, made too many loans, risky of loans, leverage built up in the system, there were bank runs, and the system collapsed. If you want a great resource on that, I suggest reading The Forgotten Depression by James Grant, another fantastic book on this topic. But the US and the Fed did not learn their lesson because just 9 years after that, they repeated their mistakes. Banks across the United States making too many loans, too risky loans, leverage built up in the system, bank runs happened, and the whole system collapsed again. Now, there was a period of calm for a few decades after this, simply because the rest of the world started using the Federal Reserve as their own central bank. So we had a global central bank now with the Federal Reserve for the first time. But the same exact pattern started to repeat itself. All of those deposits, the central bank started to make too many loans, print too many claims on the amount of money the gold that they actually had in storage. So leverage built up in the system. The depositors realized their money wasn't actually there, so they started to go and get their gold. And in 1971, the United States was about 2 weeks away from completely running out of all of its gold. There was a bank run going on. It was just a global bank run this time. And that's when Nixon decided to default on its obligation as the bank for the world, closed the gold window and just said, no, we're not giving your money back. You can keep the paper instead. But it was the same pattern as it's always been. The deposits were made, too many loans and leverage built up in the system, a bank run started, and then there was collapse. The savings and loan crisis that happened in 1980 was again the exact same pattern. And fast forward to about 15 years ago, during the great financial crisis, the same pattern again. Banks took the deposits, made too many and too risky loans, this time in the form of mortgage-backed securities. There were bank runs, there was not enough liquidity, the collapse started to happen. If we take a look at the chart of bank failures that happen every single year, we can notice a couple of things that give us some insights onto the pattern unfolding before us right now. Usually prior to a period of instability and collapse, there's about 2 years of calm before the storm. This happened in 2005 and in 2006. In 2008, we can see that total assets lost were massive, $373 billion to be exact. However, the total number of bank failures was actually very small at only 25 banks. The subsequent years resulted in smaller and smaller number of assets lost, even though there were higher and higher numbers of total bank failures happening. Essentially, the big boys with the most assets get wiped out at the beginning, and following that, you have the carnage spread to the rest of the banking system with smaller and smaller banks failing, and they're smaller banks, so there's less assets. But there's still more bank failures. As a result of the years following the great financial crisis, we saw massive consolidation in the banking system as the larger banks absorbed all of the assets and liabilities from the rest of the banking system, resulting in fewer banks, more concentration, more control over the financial system. 2021 and 2022 were years that mirrored 2005 and 2006 as a calm before a storm with zero failures. However, 2023 is a mirror of 2008 with a massive record-breaking number of assets lost, $548 billion, with only 5 bank failures. As the trouble hits the rest of the financial system much more slowly, 2024 and the subsequent years will likely be years in which more and more small banks will fail, even though it's a smaller number of assets. And then all of those assets and liabilities will get absorbed by the rest of the banking system, meaning more consolidation, fewer banks, easier central control over the entire financial system. So that's the pattern that we see unfolding throughout history. Is there any evidence, though, of things happening with banks today that would give us reason to think that more small banks are at risk of failure and the large banks will absorb them? Well, if we take a look at this data from EPB research, we can see that large commercial banks only have about 7% of their loans exposed to commercial real estate, whereas small commercial banks have about 30% of their loans in commercial real estate. Beyond that, large commercial banks have been decreasing their exposure to loans as a percent of their assets for years now, which means that small commercial banks have been picking up the slack as loans have been making a larger and larger percentage of their balance sheets. Okay, so small banks have more exposure to commercial real estate loans, but does that actually mean they're at more risk? Today, more and more people are waking up to the fact that commercial real estate is facing what some are calling an existential crisis. Billionaire Barry Sternlight, who founded Starwood Capital, said the commercial property market is facing a generational change and that it's going to be very, very ugly. We can also take a look at what these small banks are doing compared to the S&P 500. The top blue line here is the S&P 500 year to date, which is up about 6%. The best performing of these small banks on this list is KeyCorp, which is down about 5%. The rest of the banks on this list range from being down anywhere between 5% all the way to the worst offender, New York Community Bank, which is down 53%.
We expect that.
But it's not just commercial real estate companies and investors that are worried, and it's not just the market that is worried about the bank's performance as a result. We also see regulators have been talking about this more and more. Recently, Janet Yellen herself said that she expects bank stress due to the losses from commercial real estate. She also said that commercial property is a worry, but regulators are on it. That sounds eerily similar to something another former chairman of the Federal Reserve said about another real estate crisis.
At this juncture, however, the impact on the broader economy and financial markets of the problems in the subprime market seems likely to be contained.
In addition to that, Jerome Powell, the current chairman of the Federal Reserve, was recently interviewed on 60 Minutes. He was asked specifically about the current crisis unfolding with commercial real estate impacting small banks. Here's what he said.
There's some smaller and regional. Why are you protecting your livelihood with Next Insurance? Protecting your main source of income as a small business owner is essential. See, I'm just a land.
Banks that have concentrated exposures in these areas that are challenged. And, you know, we're working with them. You believe it's a manageable problem. I think we're not going to see bank failures across the country as we did in 2000. I don't think there's much risk of a repeat of 2000. Certainly there will be some closed or merged out. Some smaller banks.
Get that? Certainly, there will be smaller banks that will close and will have to be merged as a result, and they will be smaller banks.
But they
The
won't
same pattern unfolding as it has many times throughout history. Banks take deposits, they make loans, either too many loans or too risky loans, either way, too too much leverage, losses pile up, depositors go to withdraw their funds, and the banks collapse. The result is fewer banks left existing as the assets and liabilities are absorbed by the larger banks, less choices for individuals, and more central control over the entire banking and the entire financial system. And the Federal Reserve's behind the scenes bank bailout facility
what I was
called
gonna
the
show you.
Bank Term Funding Program that they opened up last year with Silicon Valley Bank bill has recently been experiencing a spike in usage. And in just about 1 month, this facility is scheduled to close. And the Federal Reserve has said it will close according to schedule, which means less liquidity and harder times for the smaller banks that are relying on it. Now, the reality is the biggest problems are always paired with the biggest opportunities. People can make money in bull markets, but they make fortunes in bear markets, as long as you're paying attention and you're prepared. So here's exactly how to play this. Number one, don't keep your money in small banks. Keep your cash in high yield savings accounts, in money market funds, in T-bills, and in big banks. Because if you are over the FDIC limit, your money will not be bailed out. It will be bailed in, which means you lose it with the bank. Now, not all of these banks will fail. Some of them will survive and they'll have a huge rebound as a result, which is why, as the original bankster said, Baron Rothschild, buy when there is blood in the streets. I never recommend getting out of the market, but I do usually recommend staying hedged, especially when risks go up and the market is not pricing in those risks. So you can use very small bets to play the bailout or even play the lack of the bailout. Simple strategies like a debit spread where you buy either a call or a put, and then you sell either a call or a put that is further away from that strike price, further out of the money, will give you a cost-effective way to bet on a large move. With these strategies, the most you can lose is the amount you spend on the trade. If you pick the right strategy.
Okay, don't really care about the trading strategy there. Yeah. But this was what I was trying to show you before we worked. When we're looking at the BTFP, the Bank Term Funding Plan, what he does, he does show it here. This is the millions of US dollars used by these banks. I want you to look and see how it looked and how it's looking now. And this is going to cut off. Now, the term for these loans is 1 year. Okay.
Oh, they do March 11th. That's what it is.
Well, they stopped the funding of it March 11th.
Okay, yeah.
But March 11th is about here in this chart. So all of a sudden, the banks on their balance sheets have a liability that has to be paid back in 1 year. And their cash flow just got sucked, so their income statement sucks. You get what I'm saying? So that was the part I wanted you to hear, though, was Powell saying, well, there won't be a bunch of failures. Now, we might have to close some and merge them. Come on, boss man. But here's the thing. This is political speak for, no, the building's not on fire. That's just an optical illusion.
It's just gonna burn down.
We're just wanting to build a new one here.
Now, the banks that would be closing or shutting down, would that be more of the larger banks that have taken out these loans and then, when they're becoming due, they just can't pay them? Or would that affect like the smaller credit unions as well?
So it will affect credit unions as well. And that's NCUA instead of FDIC, but overall, and typical credit unions tend to be in a better position than banks do because they tend to, sorry, I'm just trying to find something here real quick. They tend to be more conservative with what they do. They just tend to be more conservative with their loans. Folks, here a couple years ago, I could go out and with a non-recourse signature loan, grab $1 million. That means, if it fails, Cato doesn't owe any money. Okay, Now, I don't expect anybody else to trust me that much. But that was very normal. And all of a sudden we have people who, okay, how do I put this politely? You're all in the real estate market. You're all going to have those buyers that they went out, took a weekend course on real estate investing. They now think that they're Donald Trump and they're more Donald Chump because the things they're saying to you, you're going, that's not even legal in this state. But they told me that this weekend down at the Radisson in Denver. That's great. That's not legal here. Like, no, I'm not going to do that. Well, just put 100 offers in and let's see who bites. No, I'm not going to do that either. Because it's not worth my reputation to be that guy. Okay. So in Q4, actually, let's do this. Let's grab where Sunflower at. Sunflower is one of those banks I'm talking on behalf of the whole firm to take over a bunch of their REOs. Oh, too small. Here's what I want you to see. So in Q4, they actually did a little better because they were selling off some notes. They only had about $3 million worth of distressed asset payoffs. We don't deal with this part of it being realtors, but I want you to see something about their loans. They're charging off consumer credit lines left and right. When they do that, they have to keep a certain amount of reserves to make the FDIC happy. Okay, which means that now they have problems with other things. And if you look at this, the business loans here, the black part, this is all loans that are completely defaulted on that they're having to charge off. Farmland loans. Here's the thing. You want blank in here. You want no color. Okay, to give you an idea, farmland loans. These are all non-accrual. So what was last quarter? Only 185,000. That's actually not that bad. But they have in 30 to 89 days late on their loans for last quarter, not the year, quarter, 8.27 million. On their commercial owners, non-owner occupied, it was almost 12 million. If they haven't paid in 90 days and all these fees and late charges and interest and stacking up, what's the chance that these buildings are going to get cured? Thank you for that answer right there, because that was the best answer. He's back there chuckling because he was here in the last month. So I know we got 20 million in the state of Colorado coming in REO, which is why my job is to go out and schmooze the banks on your behalf so that we can bring these orders in as they need to be sold. And that's commercial, there's residential too. I'm not saying that, but I'm just, this one I was talking with last week, so I knew it all off the top of my head. So here is my question. You can walk out that door today and go, oh my God, why the hell did I get into real estate? Like Cato's saying, the sky is falling, it's all terrible. And you can be that raft that is turned sideways that I had in here. You know what I was talking about? And by the way, been there, done that, not real fun. Especially since they were caught up on a rock, not real fun. Or you can choose your lane in your chute and you run the rapid. And is that the most fun part of the ride, or is that the least fun part of the ride when you're riding roads? It's thrilling if you're paying attention and picking your chute. Yes? most of this industry is not picking their shoe. You know what they're doing? They're talking about the freaking Super Bowl. Okay, how many of you made money on the Super Bowl? Did you make enough to pay your mortgage for the next year? Then quit worrying about it. Okay? None of us care about Taylor Swift anyway, so it's all good. Because that seemed to be the whole message. What I'm saying is, if you're looking at this and you're working with it, and you realize the river's going into rapid. Okay. So what are we gonna do about it? How do we not only survive, how do we thrive, how do we help more clients? So this is where you guys give me your thoughts. And Joe, you don't get the answer right now because I know where your head's going.
Good question.
Sure.
Some of the video you showed that like bar chart, the white was like asset loss.
Yeah.
Red.
Mhm.
So is that all just bad debt? What is it like?
So no, it's not all bad debt. Sorry, I'm trying to find it so I can show it to you guys. So some of it will be debt, but a lot of it will be the assets they still have on their books. We basically close down the bank, someone that's going to absorb it. Now they're buying the shares at 20 cents on the dollar, but they're picking up, the assets with the bank that are not defaulted on as well.
So that plus basically unrealized loss.
Unrealized
on
losses
their
and
own-
unrealized gains both.
on their own.
Correct. Yeah, in essence, what you're doing is you're doing a fire sale on the failed bank, and it's an asset sale. So, and realizing that, hey, you got these unrealized losses you're gonna have to deal with. Jamie Dimon came out November, I want to say, and said Chase Bank has 104, what was it? No. Don't quote me on this. I want to say it was 180 billion. No, I'm sorry. Chase Bank was 410 billion in unrealized losses, and Bank of America was 180 billion unrealized losses. Those two alone would drop the whole banking sector and like bankrupt the entire country. And so the question was, A, how did we get here? B, how the hell do we dig out of this? Well, part of the way they dig out of this is they take these smaller banks and they grab the assets from them. And the FDIC is going, the FDIC and the Fed both realize they can't let Chase fail. That's that hole too big to fail. And so they go, oh, this one failed over here. Well, here, you guys just take that and we'll help you write off a certain amount of these unrealized losses from them and do this. And then what they're doing is they're restructuring over a 30, 40-year period. The problem is, and you're saying, we'll get through this. It'll be, and I'm making a guess here, 6 to 10 years. And then everything will be great again and we'll all be going, yay. And then you know what the banks will do? They'll remarginalize, and basically that cycle he was talking about happens all over. They're just trying to survive the storm. Great question. So what else? What can you guys do to help your business? Oh, don't just smile.
I think first and foremost, this is the time to get on the phone and call everybody you know.
And say what?
How are you doing? How is business? What is going on in the financial world? Are you at all prepared for the possibility? Not the probability. We're not in that business. Right?
Yeah.
But the possibility. Are you at all in position for a possible recession? People listen when you use those words. And then they crap themselves. And they say, no. Here's what's really going on in my world. Okay. How can we help? If they tell you at any point in time, at this point, that they're already 30 days behind, they're done. They are not coming. Your best shot now is to help them minimize the damage. Okay, that's when damage control. Here's what we can do. Right? A lot of people have equity today. But when there becomes a lot more of this that happens, what are we running? We're running that price down. We are the real estate, you really come in a race to the bottom as opposed to going up. And a lot of you guys have never even seen that. Some of you have seen it, but not as a realtor. I've seen it both ways, as a realtor twice already, and then also as a homeowner. When you are in a race to the bottom, it sucks when you're the seller. So get out one.
I don't disagree with anything said, but I'm gonna add a caveat in the beginning. Make sure they know that there's going to be more inventory coming. Start with that and saying, are you ready to buy an investment property? And here's why. If they have cash in the bank and they're ready to buy an investment property, you don't take them down the EOR type of path. If they say, no, I don't have the cash to do that, then go into that. And the reason I say that is nobody also wants the realtor who goes, it's all gonna die. We're all due. Okay. And by the way, you have to be realistic with them. So that's your job. You're an advisor. And you got to tell them the truth as you understand it. And by the way, guess what I do? This is where the indications are showing me it's going, but I've been wrong before. I'm hoping I'm wrong, but if I'm not, you'll be very happy that we had this conversation. That's it. That's my caveat. Okay. And if these banks fail and all these notes go and by the way, let's say Chase buys up the bank that, someone's got a note at and that person's note is questionable, they're going to go, is there any way we can call this note? You think it's not going to happen? Don't kid yourself. By the way, this is happening in the credit card world too. So if your accounts are maxed out and your credit's dropping, the credit card companies will start sending you something saying, hey, good news. You won't owe us money in 30 days because we're going to need it all back or part of it back or something like that. And this person's sitting there going, I have $14 in the bank and I owe $6,000 on this card. What do I do? And now they do a default and then they start the somersault. So the messaging is very important. Let me finish one thought, then it actually comes. What would it look like if you called your clientele and said, hey, do you have questions about the economy? We're going to do something on Tuesday night at my office. It's only going to be like 15 or 20 of us get together, blah, blah, blah. And then here's what I want you to do. I want you to put 60 seats filled. And then when they get in, you go, okay, so I really thought it'd be 15 or 20. Obviously, you guys are concerned. Let's talk about it. I'll help you craft it. So all I'm going to do is give you the slide and tell you what your cost are. But you get 60 people in here and do that. And you're going to have a third of the room that's just curious, a third of the room that's sweating bullets, and a third of the room that's sitting there going, so how do I take advantage of this? And I'm telling you, you will get a lot of deals from it. Just something to think about.
Home equity is probably at an all-time high.
Home equity is at an all-time high, which is one of the reasons why you're going to see a lot of REO and a lot of what I call forced foreclosure sales. Because back in 2005, everybody was using their house as a piggy bank, leveraging it to go on to the next one, the next one, the next one. There was no equity in the home. People got a lot smarter about it. The problem is, if they can't pay the payments, oh, by the way, let's add another piece to this. Anybody know that the S10s for the companies are due for the end of this month, like this week?
What is an S10?
Oh, it's when you explain what's going on with your company to the SEC and stuff like that. And you have, you know, how many employees you have and this and that. I'm gonna tell you in the next 3 weeks, if you go to the Warren report, you're gonna watch that column grow. Because they're giving their notice that they're about to do a bunch of layoffs. They want to get through this report first. They don't want their share price affected right before they go to their shareholder meeting, because these executives are trying to keep their job. It's not gonna make enough of a difference, not keeping people or to keep people on payroll for another 3 weeks. So now you're gonna see unemployment going up. You're gonna see the assets being lost. We're gonna see banks starting to fail. In the next few months, we are going to have a run on price in the state. You're gonna watch pricing go up, and you're gonna be like, "Here's full of crap. This is awesome." Because there's not a huge amount of properties on the market, and we aren't gonna be able to put enough on to really counter them. So you're gonna see the pricing go up. Like this. And then, because the bottom fell out here, all the ramifications come and we start doing this. There's nothing wrong with this. This is the cycle. Okay? I am actively working on losing weight. You know why I'm sitting in the chair today? Because my legs hurt like you know what. Because I just did a hill climb in Jamaica on my bike this morning, and the cute little girl on there that I'm following on my screen, I'm like, bitch. And she's like, you should be able to talk and breathe and speak in a sentence in that paragraph, and all I can think is,
Roll up.
well, yeah, mine was not near as pleasant as that. It was I could say about 3 words, and none of them were nice for them. Okay? But I am in this. Because I spent a lot of time earning my belly, now it's time to lose it. It's the same type of thing for the economy.
Over leverage to the show.
Oh, I love that. I'm sorry, what did you say, Joe? I vote. Actually, that is a phenomenal way of saying it. I over leveraged myself, which will, in my family history, will create heart problems. I don't want heart problems. I don't want the heart attack to be my first sign. By the way, that's why the Fed did what it did. It doesn't want the heart attack for the country to be the first sign. And at the same time, they're going, Bob gets paddles. We think this is working. But you guys get what I'm saying? Like, I think that idea is a really good one. What's another idea of what you can do in your business? And by the way, sorry, I'm gonna back up to what Brendan said. Part of it is just calling your database. Even if you don't talk about a recession, get back in touch with them. We all forget to call them, okay, me included. Talk to 10+ people a day. I'm sorry, there is nothing more important that you have to do that day in your business than get on the phone with 10 people and have true real estate conversations. Let's see. Judy, I'm gonna pick on you for a minute. Give me the name of someone in your database. Someone you know well.
Christina Soletto.
Okay, just Christina. Christina married?
She's not.
She have a dog?
She does.
What's the dog's name?
Here's Mark.
Okay. Is her dog important to her? Okay.
Has 3 kids. One's 18, one's 14. She's a 4-bedroom townhome, first time home buyer.
Okay.
Needs to be out by 2 o'clock.
Needs to be out of the wherever she's at. Okay. Where's she like to vacation? Okay. What does she do recreationally when she's not at work?
She likes to go to car races.
Cool. Like Vandermeer Speedway type of things.
Yeah,
Okay. What she do for a living?
she is a dispatcher.
Okay. Do you know what county or what jurisdiction? Adam. Okay. I would say she knows half of what she needs to know about that client, and I'm picking on her, but not picking on her. Because you hear the dog bark in the background, oh, what kind of dog you got? What's important to her? And here's the thing, you said she has an 18-year-old? Does she want all 4 bedrooms on the same floor? Or does she want one in the basement because the 18-year-old's driving her out of her flipping mind? Okay, but that's the type of thing to ask. Do you know what I'm saying? Great, how big is the dog? Do you need a big yard? Here's a script question I'm gonna tell each and every one of you use. It's one of the best ones I've ever learned. Judy, when you're at home, where do you like to spend the most time? Yeah, what room?
Probably my living room.
Are you a big TV person? You read, or what do you like to do? You read. What do you read?
Reports like, banking. YouTube, seriously, that's what I do.
Okay.
And, sometimes books, I pull up to see if they have, what are all those things? Audiobooks.
Okay. And now, do you spend a lot of time in the kitchen as well, or is that I don't like to cook, I don't deal with that? Okay, so probably a small kitchen would be okay then. Okay, and when you're reading, do you like the crackle of a good fireplace in the background sort of thing, or you do? Okay. Do you like being outside and doing yard work or not? Okay, so would you put like a flower garden in or a vegetable garden, both? Flower. Okay, what kind of flowers do you like?
Roses.
Roses. Okay, so a decent amount of sun then too. Do you get where I'm going with this? Because you're not selling them a building. Quit acting like you're selling them a building. You're selling them their lifestyle. You know, Les and I are also into gardening. Both, I do a huge amount of flowers and she likes to do a lot of vegetables. I put an orchard in our backyard. But the reason I got the stomach is my wife is a phenomenal cook. I know how to cook and I don't have any self-control. So we spend the majority of our time in the kitchen. Okay, I just harvested a bunch of ghost peppers for a sauce that I made that I'll make from scratch. I have to wear a respirator when I make this so bad. Okay, otherwise it'll burn your lungs.
Good thing you turn off that bathroom too.
What I'm saying is, when you're having those 10 conversations with people, you want to go to that level. Because I'm going to next ask her heirloom roses or, you know, grandifloras, teacups, what kind of roses do you like? Because I am a rose guy. Okay. What she doesn't know about me is I have a degree in botany. So I talk plants all day long. Okay. But that's a bond I can create with her, as well as she was talking about watching the YouTube videos, reading the reports and stuff. I'd be like, oh my God, me too. Because I have a chair I sit in when I do that stuff. But have 10 of those conversations a day. And by the way, I am going to tell you, those conversations are probably at least 10 minutes long. So you're probably spending 2 hours having those 10 conversations. Now, here's the last question I want you to ask Judy. So, Judy, who is someone awesome that I should know that I don't know that you could introduce me to? And I'm going to think of someone for you too.
Hopefully my girlfriend that I work with.
And why is she awesome?
We have similar.
Okay.
Next year.
It's not important so much what she says. I mean, yes, it is within the conversation, but it's going to do 2 things. It's going to tell me where my level of trust for her is, because she's introducing me to one of her friends versus oh, well, there's a lady down the street. You notice I didn't ask for a referral. About every 3rd time, I'm going to ask for a referral. The other 2 times, I'm going to try and find someone I think that she would like I know the gal that owns Front Range Nursery, and they have some really cool roses. And so I might introduce the 2 of them together because of that interest. Does that make sense? What happens to our relationship? Strengthen. And I'm going to talk to her about some things going on in the economy. I'm going to invite her into the seminar I'm talking about with what's happening. And now she sees me as the expert because I'm not sending her recipes, even though I like to cook. Don't send a freaking recipe. Send them economic data. Send them stuff on their neighborhood. Send them stuff on HOA rules that have changed if they live in an HOA. I don't care what it is, but constantly be bombarding them that you're the expert. Because now when I call Judy and Judy is 15 days behind in her mortgage or her friend is or whatever, oh, I'm so glad you called. Because now I can have the conversation that Brandon was talking about. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
Folks, that's picking your chute in the rapids. Making yourself out to be the person. In a typical year, 7% of people in Colorado move. In the next 3 years, it will be averaging over 11%. That means 1 out of every 10 people you talk to are going to need your help. Why do you think I said 10 or more conversations a day? You two gentlemen were in here with Joe before I started, and I'm going to tell him about that conversation. And one of the things we said is you need to talk to 10 people a day so you can do at least 2 deals a month. Okay? If you talk to 10 people a day and at least one of those is going to sell, and you do that 5 days a week, you have 5 potentials, right? In 20 days, that means you got 20 potential people. Is there anyone here who feels like you cannot get 1 out of every 10 people who are desperate to sell? Because if you raise your hand, we got to talk.
Yeah, all of it.
Okay, because 76% of people will choose the first realtor who comes their way as a listing broker, 68% for buyers. So you should be getting 3/4 of them. If you do those 10 conversations a day and you talk about this instead of the Super Bowl, you now become the resource that that person wants. Does this make sense? That's all I'm trying to say to you. So walk out. Yes, I did.
Quick question. Why, for those that are able to, why are we advising someone to purchase an investment before a potential recession?
So the answer is, I didn't necessarily say they should. By the way, every market has good deals, and you gotta look at the numbers. So rule number 1 in real estate investment, you make money when you buy, not when you sell. You buy a dog, you keep a dog, and it usually has food. Okay? I'm looking at, with one of my groups, a 51 unit building right now that it's not going to get better. It's a really good deal. And by the way, it's complete crap hole, is the official term for it. Okay, great. But based on the conversation I have with them, I may say, well, I'm gonna have you wait. Today may not be the best day for them to buy. Today may not be the best day for them to sell. That depends. You need to have that conversation to find out what's going on and do what's going on. What if, and I'm using a buddy of mine as an example. He has shares coming due in his company. How many days? Options, yeah, thank you. He has options coming due in his company. In April. April, he gets $1.3 million bonus based on. And so he and I are talking now about what his tax ramifications are going to be on that, unless he takes that and spends that money the way that is consistent with the IRS's standards, which obviously we brought the CPA in as well, to say, listen, you need to spend this money and do all this. Now, he's never bought an investment property. So a bank is not going to go 20% down, we're fine. They're going to be a little freaked out, but they will do a 50% down. So he can buy a $2.5 million property, holding back 100,000 reserves, and he's golden. Okay, or we find him something at, let's make up a number, 900,000 that needs 400,000 worth of work, and he's debt free, and he's got great cash flow. But now the problem is the next year, he's gonna have a higher tax burden again because of that cash flow, so we need to spend more money. So it's looking at all that stuff. So, sorry.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off of what you were doing, where you were going with that, was although it may be a great time for some to buy, it's not a great time for others to buy. They will have to, their situation will dictate whether you advise them to stay put, wait for a year, wait for 2 years. Hey, maybe it's in your best interest to keep that as a cushion.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's not. Maybe it's in your best interest to invest that. But investing in real estate is less risky than investing in the stock. Why? Because real estate has never gone to a zero. It always has. Even if a piece of garbage that was neat to condemn, it still has value. Even if the house burned down, I know because I sold one of them. And it had asbestos. And I still sold it for an incredible amount of money. So investing in real estate is going to be your safer bet. But it's not for everybody at every time. That's where the question is from.
Due to the highest equity numbers we've seen forever, the question, the answer to the question gives you the true indication of where to go.
Right, and your thing, again, fall in love with the deal, never with the property, because that building I'm looking at in Aurora, the reason I'm looking at it is because of what's the need there. Okay, not the economy, because by the way, people are still going to need a place to live. But would I go off and buy an office building in downtown Denver right now? Probably not, with rental vacancy being at 34% now. Okay, well, I say, well, if it could be converted, maybe, but if I could buy it cheap enough and have some holding money, and then I start stealing the tenants from the other buildings because I lowball it so much and put them on a graduation scale, yeah, then I might do it. Does that make sense? So you have to look at the financials of each one differently. That's also why commercial is not based on a comparative approach. It's based on an income and expense approach. Because what can this building do? Because if I look at this building here, the old CB and Potts building, which is about a little less square footage than this, and let's say, the Arabian Center, which is now a school, the way you value them are different. But they're all about the same value. And they make money different ways. So you have to look at that. So it's not to get too much into the weeds. Some buyers will be good for today. By the way, out of those 10 people, you might find 2 buyers. One is a not today, one is a not for 5 years. Tomorrow you find 2 more, and one is a today, and one is, we got to fix all your credit and all that. Let's get you Levi. Levi's going to help them, and things like that. And part of this is starting to learn accounting terms and some basics on financial things, so that then you can also sit down with their CPA. You'd be amazed how many CPAs, when I sit down, they go, wait, you actually understand the basics of this? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, oh, thank God. So easy to deal with, sir.
Oh, if anybody's interested, I'm teaching a class tonight on major financials and financial science.
Well, there you go.
If anybody's interested in hanging out, 5:15, we get going, and it should be about an hour out.
Yeah, and Scott used to teach accounting all over the country.
Yeah. If tonight's session isn't recorded, I'm teaching for all of KW tomorrow night on Age of Financials at home.
All I'm saying, folks, just wrap up. The market is the market.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, you can come in and go, oh, that's so depressing. You can go, yeah, now I know where to go make my money. That's it.
But it helps you create a warm and hot.
Yes. When you just create a war room mentality, and you get really focused on talking to as many people as possible. By the way, for those of you who are younger and, sorry, but gentlemen, this works better for you. Is if you don't know where to go on a Saturday or Sunday, show up with 20 paper cards at Home Depot or Lowe's. And as you see people walking around, actually you do,
I
because
live
your
in Home
background.
Depot.
Huh?
I
Why,
live in
why,
Home
like, wait, I forgot who you were, never mind. But you literally walk up and you see someone with a bunch of stuff in their cart and this is the script. Moving in or moving out? Because it's one of the two usually. Or we're fixing it up because we're gonna sell it in a year. Awesome. Tell you what, put your name on the back of it. I'll give you some information on your neighborhood and all that. I won't bug you. I'll just give you some updates and all that. You know, give me an email address and a cell phone and we'll pop that on and here's one of my cards and you take it back. And you just ask them, is it okay if I, email you stuff on your neighborhood occasionally? It's in command, the smart plan. Okay, and, you're wanting to sell in 6 months? Would it be okay if I kept in touch, because I'm a broker and I work in that area? That's it, I used to go pick up 8 to 10 listings a year doing that for like 3 days. I literally pick up like 2 every time I did it. And by the way, it didn't mean that listing was this week. That listing may not be for 6 months. And I kept in touch with them.
What are the items you look for in their cards?
That's a great question. Paint, caulk, sometimes lumber, just items that are gonna be spruce up a house, blinds and drapes. And a lot of times if it's drapes, if they just moved in. Blinds, a lot of times, believe it or not, blinds, a lot of times means they're moving out, because we've been meaning to put blinds on that window for 12 years. Because people do the same thing every time. They work on their house, work on their house, work on their house, and then when they finally get the way that they want to look, they go, we should move. And you're like, wait, didn't we drop $100,000 a month?
I did it.
Yeah, oh, we've all done it. But it's a great place to hang out and do all that. All I'm saying is look for creative ways to meet more people. All right, go get a listing.
I'm gonna get me a list.
You asked Cato what to look for in the cart. The question I was thinking is, how did you